Right, hello everyone, good evening and welcome to Tactica Imperialis and to today's video. Today is going to be another of our live streams, one of the many live streams I've been doing over the past few weeks. Though I haven't done one for a few days, I've been doing some off-screen work, mainly on what I'm going to be doing today. And today is going to be the fourth part, I know it's getting on a bit, the fourth part of our hobby project stream. So our fourth stream on this hobby project, which is of course our Altar of Khaine conversion that I've been working on over the past few weeks. We designed it on stream and we've been working on it ever since, but I had a lot of off-screen work to do with it because it was absolutely soul-crushing monotony and I don't think it was worth putting out live on YouTube for anyone's viewing pleasure or displeasure, so I didn't. So let me show you where we're up to because there has been a small update, well, a slightly major update, but definitely an update since our previous streams. So this is where we are. So to remind you, that was the original mock-up that we had made in Photoshop for the altar. And this is where we are now. So on the last stream, we finished off the Avatar of Khaine. Our very green goblin-like avatar of Khaine, as it turned out. We also, after 4 coats of paint that I think I ended up finishing off screen, we finished off the main sacrificial pool in the center. That took a lot of work, but we got there in the end. And the main thing we've done off screen is the pillars around the outside. So you may notice they're a bit more detailed than they were before, and that's because I've gone around and washed all of them. So the way I did that was something I did do for a very brief time on the previous stream, but I then decided to do off stream because of how annoying it was I took Drakenhof Nightshade and essentially shaded all of the recesses, and from there we were able to just work it all through. When I say recesses, I actually mean essentially every single individual letter had to be shaded. So all of those little dark patches that you can see are runes or letters or symbols or whatever you'd like to call them. And all of them had to be shaded individually to avoid losing too much of the brightness on the actual pillar itself. And as a result, it was a bit soul-crushing. So I did it off-screen, and I'm glad it's done. I've also done all the top details, all the recesses, but they are done now, and I'm pretty much ready to call those pillars finished, with the exception of the flaming braziers. Today's plan can go in one of two directions, depending on what chat is in the mood for. I quite like having a little bit of democracy when it comes to these things. So my original intention for today was to finish off the floor detailing and the wall detailing of the actual temple itself. So the purple stone would be the main thing. So that's finished, but it would be to do all the metallic detailing, so those 2 comets, the ring around the outside and the ring around the pool in the center were the main things I wanted to finish, as well as the outside paneling on the on the pillars. So I'll show you that on screen now. So that would be these parts right here. So that's one thing we can do. The other thing that we need to do is the fire. So I need to do all the torches around the back on the white pillars, and I also need to do the braziers at the front. So I could be tempted to do the fire effects and do them next. It won't be anything clever like object source lighting, but it will certainly be a task to do. And I can do the 2 in any order. It is broadly up to chat, and if anyone is around, the people in my ears in the Discord server, to essentially guide what they would like us to do first. Because whilst the detailing will take longer, it will have a much more marked effect versus the fire effects, which are quicker because it's only going to be about 4 colours, but will not overall affect things so much, but it will allow me to stick the 2 brazier pillars down at the front, and probably I'd nearly be ready to stick the side pillars on as well if we do the others. So that is where we are. That is how we are at the moment. And we've got, how many have we got here tonight? We've got about 10 or 11 people here so far. Obviously, we've not been going that long, we're only going about 5 minutes. So people obviously will come in their own time if they are interested. And I look forward to seeing how people are doing, where we're up to, and having a bit of a discussion about where we go. There's not a lot really else to discuss news-wise, because, well, there's a huge amount to talk about news-wise, but I talked about it all in Adeptus Podcasters, which is coming out on Wednesday, so I'm kind of willing to hold off talking about all of it. But if people do want to discuss, say, the Space Marines wound change in particular, then I am more than happy to have that discussion, at least while we're working on the painting. Source Light Effect for Braze is quite easy. Just paint any face not facing the fire really dark. But that's fair. The only challenge is that it would lose the sort of brightness effect of the white pillars, because a lot of the brightness would be lost if I paint one side bright and the other side a lot less bright. And also there are 4 pillars that don't have them, which would in turn mean that they would they'd have to be side lit and they'd all be affecting each other. So I don't think I'm quite skilled enough. Source lighting for one brazier I could probably do, but for 4, I think we're pushing our luck. Even the avatar was probably as far as I can push my painting skills. I already tried a few new things with this project, but I think that would be pushing it. To try and do 4 different sets of object source lighting, and I'd have to object source light the avatar as well, and the stone that the avatar sits on, because they're directly in front of the braziers. If I remind you, the brazier are right behind the avatar, so the avatar would have to be backlit rather than front lit, and that would really make things even more awkward, I would expect. You don't have to, though, because the way source lighting works, it would only affect stuff that's super close. Think of it this way: anything right next to the brazier will be illuminated by the fire, while the rest is illuminated by the moon, sun, whatever. Yeah, true. I guess I just don't want to go screwing around with those pillars after doing, I think, about 6 hours of just washing all of those recesses. I just don't want to mess with them anymore. It hurt my soul. If you believe in the concept of the soul, it hurt to do. It really hurt just to work on them for that long. So what are we thinking, chat? Are we thinking fire, or are we thinking all the metallics? So you've either got slightly snazzier thing, or the one that will give us the most progress, and pretty much we'll be at the final stage if we can do that, because then we'll only have the fire effects to do. So these are the last 2 steps, and I think we'll probably only need 2 streams. So this one and then one more to finish off the project. I don't think we're going to get both done tonight. Depends on how we go, I guess, but I won't rule it out. I've just usually found that when I set a target for a stream, we never get anywhere close to that target. Just had a message. I need to go and read that. Hang on. Okay, that's fine. Wasn't sure what that was. I just wanted to go and read that because I had a message. But it's all good. It's all good. Right. Sorry about that. Just had to go and read a message. Paint fire first. The metallics will be easy. If you paint the other way around, it's going to be more likely you paint over the metallics. Good point. Good point, actually, especially with these things where you've got the skull like holders that go round the fire. It would, yeah, I'd make a mess and I'd miss. You haven't missed anything at the moment. We're just sort of democratizing where we're going to start in terms of where we're going today. So it looks like at the moment we're going to be doing the fire effects, which I'm absolutely down for. I think it will not take too long, probably no more than an hour and change to do the fire and then the braziers that hold them. Because I was going to do the fire and the braziers together, but I'll probably paint the fire first, which is Kaz's suggestion. Kaz has been a big help on this project, by the way. Shout out again to Kaz for helping with the Photoshop setup and all of that. It's been really helpful. Okay, so we're going to do the fire effects. Now, how do we do that? So there's sort of two schools of thought on how you paint fire. One is start dark and then highlight lighter and lighter as you work outwards. So sort of dark red and then highlight the edges with brighter reds, oranges and yellows. And then you've got the opposite school of thought, which is that the center of the fire should be brighter and you've got blacks almost around the edges, like black flickering on the edges of the flames. Now in terms of actual fire, you'll typically find that they are, well, if you think about most bonfires, they're very bright at their center and then get darker as you move away. But we don't have to necessarily stick with red fire. I know red fire is the classic, but if you want something slightly more ephemeral, something a bit hotter even, you could pivot into blue fire. I do quite like painting blues, but I do worry that it wouldn't stick out enough to have blue fire, whereas red would definitely stand out more against the purples and the whites that we are working with on the majority of the temple. And we've got thunder and lightning. Great. Just that you probably didn't hear that, but I just heard a rumble of thunder outside, so that's good. That's good. Hopefully it doesn't cause any problems. I don't think it will, but it's worth knowing. Blue fire feels more Zinchi. Yeah, I'm kind of inclined to say the same. Like white fire is where you'd lean toward the realm of light, which I like, but there isn't really a dark fire type thing that you'd have, and the Daughters of Khaine being so associated with blood, you'd think they would use red fire, I guess. I just thought I'd throw the option out of not necessarily red fire rather than just crack on with it. But I do see the point of like blue fire being a Zinchian thing, though you do see red fire in Zinch as well. I suppose it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen the other, a bit, maybe. I don't know. How about red to purple fire? Those realm of shadow coals to give quite a dark. But yeah, that's sort of like, can we do something other than just basic red? Should we do something other than basic red and oranges? And if we should, how? Because again, it's one of those things as you sort of worked out, I'm not great at painting. Blue, green to yellow. So sort of blue central, green middle region. That's kind of like throwing, what was it that burns green when you throw it? There's a powder, I think it's a copper compound. When you throw I think it's copper sulfate powder into a Bunsen flame, it goes green. I haven't got the Pt.4 glowing Necron green. I don't have Tesseract glow, nor do I ever intend to have Tesseract glow. So I don't think it's quite what I'm going to go for. It's a nice idea, but I think it would look really weird. And I don't own that paint anyway, and it's a Sunday at 7 o'clock in the UK, so there's no way I could go and get some if I wanted to, which I don't, if I'm completely honest. Okay, I've always imagined them as red fire, so I'm going to make an executive decision. I'm going to go with red, because that's the colour I've always sort of imagined them. Every time I've sort of visualised it in my head, it's always been red fire rather than blue. I just thought I'd throw it out there, see what chat thought. So the fires in the sconces are not too big. So for context, here's a Daughter of Khaine, here's a Hag Queen, and there's the two next to each other. So the fire itself is big-ish, but not huge. You've got also these fire pits that sit at the front of the temple. And again, there's a Daughter of Khaine for comparison. So they're a lot bigger. Made to look more like smoke. I wouldn't even know where to start. It comes back to that. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Red. So instead of highlighting, starting with oranges at the center and yellows at the center, we start with just red and then a darker red and blacks on the outside. So we just don't have like a yellow center. Is that where we're going? Is that the suggestion there? Forgive me, I'm just trying to understand exactly what's being suggested. Because these ones in the pillars don't have coals, and the ones in the fire pits actually do. I don't know how you'll see that, but they have actual coals in there. as a random side point. Okay, so if we're going to do something red based, then I need to get my reds. I need corn red, and I've got my Mephiston red. I've got my Avalanche Sunset if I need it, Yerio Yellow if I need it, Abaddon Black. Where's my Abaddon Black? There's my Abaddon Black. And I do have an orange paint as well. It's an old, well, it's actually not that old. It's an orange paint that I haven't used in a long time. It's Troll Slayer Orange. Use pink and purple. I don't own a pink, unfortunately. I don't have any pink paints at all, I'm afraid. Nice idea, but I haven't got the right paints to do it because I haven't got pink. Yeah, I'm alright, thank you. It's been a bit of a naff day weather-wise, but I got to watch the snooker. I planned most of my lessons. I think I planned all of my lessons for my first week back at work in September, which is really good. So I'm making some good progress on that front. I haven't actually got a video for tomorrow, though. I couldn't think of anything to make my thoughts on about, and I just never got round to making a lesson video. So I haven't actually got a video for tomorrow. So that's what the stream's going to be. I might stream again tomorrow and just finish off the Altar of Khaine, and we'll just do a double bill of back-to-back streaming to do for Monday, and then that will finish off this project. And then obviously we'll stream on Friday because that's our regular streaming slot, and we'll get on with that from there. So that's sort of where we are. We're not doing too bad. So let's start off with the simple stuff. I take my coals. I think what I might do, I could wash the fire with like Druchii Violet to finish, like a very light wash of Druchii Violet just on the edges to add that like shadowy ephemeral feel. What do we think of that? What do we think to that? Just put a bit of water on the brush before we start. Do, 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 do. Okay, that's one. And I'll definitely wash the fire pit quite heavily with black to sort of represent like the fact it's been charred and there are ashes all over it. So I'll definitely wash the inside of the fire pit very heavily with black to show that ashes, soot, charred look. Do, 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 do. Yeah, let's just make sure that we've no sticky out grey bits. Just paint around the edges. Excellent. Okay, so that's the coals done. I think even whether they're going Realm of Shadow or not, having black coals makes sense for the Realm of Shadow. So I think that's fine. I don't think there can be any real need for an argument on that one. Check there's nothing going on that I've missed. No, I haven't. Good. Sorry, just trying to keep tabs on Extreme Health, Discord server, chat, and then the model itself, just constantly flicking around, clicking things. Not the most professional setup in the world, but then it is what it is. So, okay. So if I was going to paint fire, which way around would I go? Probably start with a red base coat, do the wash, and then highlight some of the lower central areas, or the lower centralized, like a Bunsen flame. I know what a Bunsen flame's like. To make that much brighter in the center. Then add flecks of black to some of the outer edges. And then if I want to go slightly unnatural, maybe add a purple wash to finish. That's what I'm thinking sort of as a starting point. So start with a red base coat, wash a little bit, very lightly, maybe with Caribou Crimson, just to deepen that red. Or maybe with some True Key Violet, depending if I want to go down that route. But I might do that as like a final glaze rather than a proper mid-tones wash. I think I'll do it as a final glaze and do it very very lightly and very carefully, whereas the Caribou got to be a lot more thorough. That's my plan. If anyone in the chat has a moral objection to my incompetence at painting fire, speak now or forever hold your peace, because I'm going to be cracking a paint pot open in a minute, and once I do that, we're going. So if you have an objection, please do tell me. So let's get those other pillars off of there, so as I remember to actually, do them. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. So that's the 4 pillars that I've got off the altar. Right. Corn red then. So I'll start with a base coat of corn red, a wash of Caribou Crimson, a liberal highlight of all but the edges of Mephiston red, and then more centralized highlights working inwards of orange and yellow, followed by a black highlight on the very edges, and then the True Key Violet to finish. Well, I'll see what chat thinks about that when we get there. Is chat just broken? No. Okay, good. It's not broken. So begin to worry that chat had broken there. that's one. The other one. Don't overload your brush. Don't be an idiot. Yeah, that's fair enough. I understand. Obviously, some people like have this stuff in the background or are painting themselves, which means that they've not really got free hands to chat, and that's totally fine. It's just I'm aware that like sometimes I need a chat to bounce off, so that it doesn't just turn into 2 hours of just dead silence and random musings. So I was just a little bit worried that something had broken and that chat wasn't working, but that's fine. I was just a little concerned. How many demon worlds are there in each? Oh, good grief. We don't know. Is the only answer I can give you. We don't know. We will never know because you cannot map the warp anyway. So being able to like categorically state how many are there is essentially an impossibility. So yeah, we don't know and we never will in terms of that question. Badly repainting a repulsor. Oh, I see. I've not actually worked on a tank in so long. It was weird because I haven't painted a vehicle in ages. Like, the last time I painted a vehicle, well, I did my drop dump dragster when I was in lockdown. But before that, the last time I'd done a vehicle was the Megatrack Scrapjet and the Deck of the Wartrike. And that was all the way back in like September or maybe January. So I hadn't painted a vehicle in ages. And honestly, if you gave me a battle tank to paint, I genuinely would really struggle with it. I think I would genuinely struggle to paint a battle tank anymore. Appears that the next Warhammer preview will be the 22nd of the 8th. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to go and have a look on Warhammer Community just to verify that. Because I'm assuming that was in the Sunday preview, which I haven't read yet. I know it's out, but I haven't actually read it. So let me just have a look. So House of Blades, the Slave Ogren's kit, card packs, dice, AMA, Aeronautica's Avengers, the Snotling team, No Good Men for Warhammer Crime, paperback for Empire of Lies, go buy it. The Regent Shadow, go buy it. Oaths and Conquest, go buy it. They're all good. And yes, Warhammer Preview Online. They've given it a subtitle. Okay, this is interesting. So this is going to be called Shadow, Iron, and Broken Realms. So I'm just gonna hold that up to the screen. I'm not gonna go and like drag up a big screen cap, but that is on Warhammer Community right now. Shadow, Iron, and Broken Realms is the name of Saturday's Warhammer preview. If you would like to get involved with the preview with me, then in the channel's Discord server, which I know many people have joined, we will be doing, as usual, a Snarkathon, where we will do a live watch-along to the reveals. And I forgot to paint the ones in the braziers, didn't I? I'm so clever. So we'll do a live watch-along together in voice chat, and we'll discuss all the reveals as they happen. I may or may not do my thoughts on it, sort of depends on what there is. But that title sounds very intriguing. What do we think that title means? Shadow, Iron, and Broken Realms. What do we think? Because obviously, this preview is probably not going to be what's coming out immediately. We know that we've got we know what the next couple of months are. We've got Sons of Behemoth, Lumineth Realm Lords, the Necron Codex, the Space Marine Codex, already taken care of. So we're already up to probably November before we have any unknowns, well, major unknowns in the release schedule. Now, obviously, I haven't accounted for like all the stuff like Aeronautica, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, all that stuff's got to come out as well. But in terms of the main two games, which is probably what they based that promo on, what do we think Shadow, Iron, and Broken Realms is all about? Let's go let chat mull over that one while I paint a bit more of this fire. Necromunda for AOS. Well, they already have Warcry. So we already have Warcry in AOS, which is a very unique system in and of itself. Some more stuff for Warcry I wouldn't be opposed to, like adding in more factions. We know that we've got that Elven team that's like Shadow Stalkers. Oh, I've forgotten their actual name coming to Warcry. So that could be something for that. That's an interesting idea. Because it says Shadow, I'm so leaning toward the Realm of Shadow. But the only thing that's left to do in the Realm of Shadow is Malerian's Elves. And I don't think we're going to be getting Malerian's Elves so soon after Teclis's. And in terms of Broken Realms, well, there isn't one in the Mortal Realms. 40k, of course, there are so many broken worlds. But what would you class as a broken realm? Well, the Imperium, I guess. But we don't just... They wouldn't be that subtle about it being Imperial. So they've definitely got me intrigued with this title, and I'm definitely curious to see what the rest of chat thinks if they have their hands free to think and type. In fact, if any of you are already in the server, can you share that link in the general chat so that everyone's got it? Because I would, but I'm just, well, I am painting, so I haven't got the free hand at the moment relative to other people. So if someone could share that article or maybe just the screen cap of that preview in the server, that would be very helpful. Thank you. Come on, let's get these braziers done. God, doing these again, I realised just how much of a mess I made just trying to paint the white stone on them. I'm going to have to be a lot more accurate with these two steps, particularly the last step with the metallics. I'm going to have to be very accurate to get it right, but we'll get there. What's the center realm? Well, it's not really the central realm. Well, it is. It's called the All Points. It's called the All Points, and that is where Archaon sort of makes his base. Well, the Varan Spire, which is where he makes his base, is within the region known as the All Points, if I remember correctly. So maybe it could be something in there. That would be interesting. Though that obviously opens up the 8 points as a realm of battle, which I think they did a little bit in Wrath of the Everchosen. I think they did a little bit of that for like fighting in the Bloodwind Spoil and the Varan Spire area, which could be interesting. But I wouldn't class the 8 points as broken. In fact, the most broken realm, if we're being honest, is probably Shyish, the realm of death, since Nagash like inverted the flow of gravesand and of death energy to create the Shyish Nadir. So, of all the realms that are most broken, it's probably Shyish. So I don't really know what it's going to be. Well, that would be cool if it was Soulblight Vampires, but I don't think they'd call it Broken Realms. I think they'd use Blood or something like that. So I'm really curious about what this preview is going to be now. And I mean, to be fair, we've had a couple of the last few streams have been entirely 40k, because we had obviously the big Warhammer 40k preview stream where they dropped 9th edition. Then we had the Indomitus Showdown. Then we had Indomitus Day where they revealed the monolith and stuff. There hasn't actually been anything for the other game systems on quite a few streams now. So I think it might be nice for them to do a stream where they actually do the other game systems again. Not to say that they shouldn't put any 40k there. They've just released a new edition of the thing. It makes sense to keep pushing it. But I think it would be nice to give a bit of time to the other realms. Or sorry, to the other game systems, I should say. What did you miss? Not a lot. So at the moment we're working on the fire effects. So all the flames for the Altar of Khaine. And it has been pointed out to me that we have another preview stream on Saturday, which has been subtitled Shadow, Iron and Broken Realms. So we were just having a bit of speculation about what that might entail. Which is obviously throwing up a few interesting ideas. Like the obvious ones like Realm of Shadow or something like that. But I don't know. I'm really curious as what it's going to be. So we were just having a bit of a speculate about that while I was working on some fire. Okay, so I'm just going to leave those to dry for a minute, and then I'll wash the reds with Caribou Crimson just to deepen the effect without like darkening it too much. Sort of my thought process on that, and then I'll highlight from the bottom up with different colours. Or sorry, from the outside in, I'll highlight up and then add some black flecks to the outside of the flames. It's going to be a bit awkward, but I'll make it work. Because I've seen enough Bunsen burners in my time to roughly know what a flame looks like. I'm not utterly hopeless. Actually, you, Hag Queen, get out of the way. That's Lord of the Rings reference, I assume. Maybe there was I think there should be something for Middle Earth. I think, is that one of the Dwarven songs? Far over the misty mountains cold? I don't know. I think that's a Dwarven song. But I could very much be wrong. It's been a long, long time since I read The Lord of the Rings. You haven't missed much. I've just recapped it actually. So just to catch people up who are a bit late. The altar of Khaine is currently at this stage. So the avatar we finished last stream, and in the interim period, I have individually washed all the letters on the pillars. It hurt. It took me about 6 hours, but I got them done. So we're working on the fire for the braziers and the fire pits at the moment. And we've just been having a chat about the upcoming preview on Saturday, the reveal stream, and what we might see there. It's the song from The Hobbit. I knew it was a Middle Earth thing. I just couldn't remember exactly where it was from. So I'll hold the L, but not a massive L, just a small L. What colour do I want to do the holders? Probably just all silver. How do they do them? Yeah, very dark. In fact, they make their fire effects stupid dark. On the original model, I'm just looking at the original box at the moment, and they make their fire effects stupid dark. It's almost white at the bottom and black for almost the entire upper half of the flame. And the ones in the fire pits are almost pitch black. So I don't think I'm going to do that. This is elven fire, not human fire. So it'll be a bit brighter than that, but interesting. Clearly, that's what happens when you get better and more skilled painters. And it also looks like all the tops of the ruins, the ruined pillars, have like been exploded off, rather than mine that have just crumbled. Stylistic choice. Stylistic choice. We'll go with stylistic choice and stick with it. That's my excuse. Right, Caribou Crimson. I'm using Caribou rather than Nuln Oil just to add a bit more to the red without making it too dark. That's sort of my thought process, is to make it a deeper red without making it a really dark red, because I don't want that dark fire type look. I only own 2 yellows. In fact, I've used more yellow on this project than I've used in the entirety of my last 3 armies. Last 5. I've never found an orange or yellow paint that I've particularly liked. I don't know why. Just never have. AOS 1, actually AOS 2, Shyish. So this sort of feeds back into my original thought. I've always said, I think AOS 3 will be Order and Destruction. So AOS 3 will have a strong focus on Gur. And that could be supported, arguably, by Beastgrave, which obviously goes to Gur from Shyish. So you go from Shadespire and the Night Vault within it to the Beastgrave in Gur. So I think it will be Gur. I would like it to be something like Ulgu or Hish, because elves. But I'd also be cool with something like the Realm of Metal, which is a realm where Tzeentch holds sway and the Duardin used to rule, but that has been completely warped beyond all recognition by the effects of Tzeentch. So it could be a really interesting thing to explore. But in terms of unexplored realms, then you've got Ulgu, Hish, and Gur are probably the main ones, because Shyish has had plenty, actually had plenty, Gyron got plenty in the Realmgate Wars, and Sharmon got a bit as well. So I think probably one of the other 3, Shadow, Light, and Beast, would be the best. Is it true Warhammer's coming back? Warhammer never went away. I don't know where that's what that's about. Warhammer's never gone away. I've been in this hobby for half my life now. It's never gone away. Well, half my life minus 2 weeks. So 12 is the machine god's number. So my logic for this came, and I talked about this actually on episode 102 of Podcastus. So in the 7th edition Scutarii Codex, and yes, I'm going to keep calling it Scutarii, come at me. In that codex, it talks about how the Scutarii are laid out, And I actually talked about this in the video as well. And they're organised into their macro clades with the mana pools and diddly dee. And you end up having 12 mana pools. Which is a number considered sacred to the Adeptus Mechanicus, quote the Codex. So that was just my extrapolation, is that 12 could be the machine god's number, if you consider it as a warp entity. It was just an idea that I had, really, as that's how I did it. It was from the 7th edition Codex for the Scutarii. Oh, fantasy battles. Yes, sort of. So Warhammer the Old World is sort of the new version of Warhammer Fantasy, and will be done by Forge World, presumably once they finish the Horus Heresy and 30k. So yes, you have heard right. It's about 7 months ago that got announced. It was like January, maybe even December. They announced Warhammer the Old World. So that's not new. It's not new, but it is a thing. They also, the world will not be coexisting with Age of Sigmar. It is essentially a entirely separate game. It's like the Heresy. The Heresy coexists with 40k by existing 10,000 years prior. Warhammer the Old World will coexist with AOS by existing before the Mortal Realms ever existed. So it's literally going to be going back to the Old World, but maybe a slightly different time period within the Old World, which we haven't had confirmed yet, because they said at that point, which was about the start of 2020, it was going to be like several years until it was done and ready to come out. So there's no rush for it. It's not going to be out anytime soon, but it is coming back. They have also confirmed one of the factions is going to be Kislev. So they actually did some mock-ups of some warrior women for Kislev, so like Huskal type things for the Tsar, who also have like ice magic. And they also revealed like the first like CAD mock-ups for the Kislevite bear cavalry as well. So they're not just rehashing the old fantasy kits. They are doing original content with this as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. It is a huge undertaking, don't disagree. But so was doing all 18-ish Primarchs and the Emperor and an entirely separate rule system that they've maintained on their own for Warhammer 40,000 since 7th edition died and became 8th edition. They have done huge undertakings before. If you take 30k as an example. So yes, but... And also consider the specialist games that they make. Titanicus is Forge World's baby, pretty much, if not entirely Forge World's baby. They have a heavy hand in a lot of things. I can't say all of them are Forge World's own particular babies, like Titanicus is. Necromunda or Blood Bowl, I think GW at least has a hand in. So, yeah, they do big projects. They do big projects, and I'm not surprised to see them getting a hand in this, because the AOS team are busy, the 40k team are busy, but the 30k team are going to be less busy when they finish 30k, so give them another massive project to do. Why not? You'll get your bear cavalry, calm down. Right, I'm just going to leave that to dry for a minute, because washes take a bit longer to dry. And then I'm going to have to work out exactly how I'm going about these highlights. Got a rough plan, but I've just got to execute it. You with that? Yeah, I think that's a good like edge tone for the reds. I like that, yeah. So I'm going to do a pretty heavy highlight of bright red, but mostly concentrated in the lower 2/3 to, or well, if not all of it, then certainly the lower 2/3 will get most of it, but not the edges. So I'll actually be highlighting the recesses, ironically, and I'll edge highlight some of the edge effect with black as well, just to sort of create that effect, because I know that's a thing. And then I'll work down from there to oranges and yellows, and maybe a smidge of white at the very base center, but I'm not sure if I'll do that, because that might just be too much. I should have got a drink before I started this stream. I didn't. That was a mistake, and I'm going to regret that mistake. Never mind. Are we there yet? Since Lord of the Rings is on my mind, I'm assuming. What are your thoughts on the Amazon Prime series? There's an Amazon Prime series. There you go. That's my thoughts on it. I didn't know there was one. I don't particularly keep up with like what the on-demand television services do on like Amazon Prime and Netflix and that sort of thing. I don't really keep up because I don't pay for or watch any of them. So I hadn't really heard, like, I knew about the Eisenhorn series because everyone talked about it. The Lord of the Rings one snuck past me, so I hadn't heard, to be honest. Big projects are awesome when done right. That's why we've spent, well, by the time this project's done, we've probably done 12 hours of live stream time devoted to finishing it. So we've definitely taken our time, and I've done, as I say, about 4 to 6 hours off screen, just doing all these blooming washes on all these pillars. I hope you appreciate how nice these look, where you've got these individual washes of all the letters. I hope you appreciate how long that took and how annoying that was. It looks nice, but God was it annoying. Right, where was I? Mephistopheles, that's where I was. What's your suggestion? Not really. I skipped over the pre-orders to talk about the preview. Have I seen the Exodite teasers? No, I've heard about it, but then I was a bit busy at the time with like lesson planning and stuff, so it got a bit past me. So I'll try and, if I can remember, I'll go back and don't drop the thing. I'll try and go back and watch them later if I get time. It's just, some people remind me it exists, and then I forget to go and watch it. I have heard it's got a very heavy Tau presence. It's just I kind of forgot to go and like look at it. Bear Cavalry look awesome, even if the stats in the last rules tome was bad. Well, bear in mind, when was the last time the Kids That Fight Bear Cavalry were in a rules book? Like an army book or a rule book or an expansion pack? Probably about 5th or 6th edition fantasy. But when was that? Since 7th. That would have been 7th edition fantasy then. Right. Apologies about the silence. I'm just kind of trying to focus and get this right. I'm trying to avoid highlighting too many edges and get all the recesses so I can get that sort of tone shift. And my brush seems to have gone a bit dodgy. So I'm just having to fill things in. Well, actually, I think what's happened is I've got a very watery bit of paint on it and it's made it go all messed up. In paperback, yes. Aside from the Regent Shadow, I actually own all of those. But because Rem read it, I didn't actually buy it myself. Warhammer Crime. Right. Actually, since we've been talking about the old world and I'm painting fire, trivia question. In the Empire, what was the name given to wizards who used the law of fire? Well, I know you'll know it, so hold fire. Hold fire. Puns. So yeah, what was the name of the wizards in the Empire army that used fire magic? What was their name? Okay, so there's a few people got it in chat, but not everyone. They were the Bright Wizards, yeah. I was hoping someone was going to say Fire Wizard, but no one did. Because that would have been like the QI klaxon noise. Well, if that was something I could do. Sort of like the trick question QI klaxon thing. But yes, they were known as Bright Wizards. And they were the ones who had their hair on fire in Empire armies. Okay, so this one should be slightly easier if you played your Total War. Who was the chief wizard, or sorry, I think probably the best way of phrasing it is, who was the main wizard character in the Empire? I believe he was the head of the Arcane College, or whatever they called it, the Magic College, but I can't exactly remember. And bonus point, what law of magic did they use? So who was the chief wizard in the Empire, if you like, and what law of magic did they use? Mm-hmm. Okay, people seem to be on broadly the right lines. It was the guy in the gold mask, yes. Balthasar Gelt, with an S, not a Z, as I recall. Balthasar Gelt, although Balthazar was how it was pronounced, so it's fine. And they were indeed a gold wizard who used the law of metal. Yes. Yes. Yeah, they did. In fact, the mortal realms were not just one-to-one with the laws of magic. They were named after the laws of magic, or the winds of magic. Akshi, Sharmon, Ger, Gyron, Hish, Olgu, Shyish, and Azir. All of them were named after the winds of magic, not just connected to them, they were named after them. Okay, we'll stay with the old world. This one I think is going to really challenge people. So, many of us know Morathi, the leader of the Daughters of Khaine, but Morathi, of course, was around in the old world as well. She was the mother of Malekith. But what was her mount, and for a bonus point, what was its name? It's not carried one of the AOS books as a resuscitated Stormcast. There is a Stormcast called Balthazar. Yes, they're in Soul Wars, actually. There's no reference to them being Balthazar Gelt. But there is a Storm... But bear in mind also a lot of Stormcasts change their name from who they were to who they are. So, for example, Torglug became Taunus in the case of the Chaos Champion that got redeemed. Most Stormcasts changed their name. So the Balthazar of Soul Wars, who was a celestial wizard, was probably not Balthazar Gelt. Be a nice reference, but no, probably not. Can't wait for this time next week. I'm getting a new chair. So this time next week, if I stream again on Sunday next week, I'm going to have a new chair, like a proper office chair, and it's going to be so much comfier because I'm sat on a blooming wicker wood chair with a cushion, and it's not big and it's not comfy. I'm going to get a proper chair next week, and I can't wait. So Morathi's mount was a dark Pegasus, and its name was Sulefet. S-U-L-E-P-H-E-T. Sulefet. That's why it was a bonus point, because no one was going to get it. That was the point of the exercise. But yes, Morathi didn't ride a black dragon. Malekith did, which was called Sephiroth is Warcraft. Sephiron, maybe, and then it became Malerion when he fused with it. Something like that. Yeah, Sephiroth, I think. But that sounds like Sapphiron, the dragon in World of Warcraft, so I'm not actually sure if that's right. A nightmare was one of the undead mounts, so vampires could ride around on nightmares. I think that maybe some of the Von Carsteins could take a nightmare, and I know vampire lords could, but it was a dark Pegasus. Yeah, the nightmares belong to the undead. I'm afraid, but good effort. Okay, so on to orange now. So on to orange. Okay, trivia question I'm not sure of the answer to. I'm just genuinely curious, because I'm an elf player, not a dwarf player, so I'm curious, because I've got here Troll Slayer Orange. How many different ranks of Slayer were there in the dwarves? I know the Fire Slayer doesn't count. So like, there was the Troll Slayer. I know I don't also mean Gotrex titles. I mean like the ones that you get in the book. Like there was a couple of hero ones and stuff. I can't remember how many Slayers there was. If anyone could tell me, that would be much appreciated while I use this Troll Slayer orange. This paint is probably dried, so it's probably utterly useless. But okay, not totally useless. These ones first. Yeah, I'm inclined to say it was 4 because there was the unit, the unit champion, there was a hero variant, and there was a lord variant, I think. But I couldn't remember if that was actually right, so I just sort of threw it out there. Okay, so this is coming together quite nicely. Start to get the orange on. And I'll just do black for the edges when we get to the end. Okay, I think we've had enough of the old world because I've given some very difficult questions there trying to recall knowledge from a game that's technically been dead for the past 5 years. Okay, whoops, a daisy. So, we'll stay on fantasy, but we'll move forward to Sigmar. Not sure. What do I want to do? Okay, just pop that down while I have a think. I don't know the answer to that question. Okay, so we'll see who's been paying attention very recently to certain things. In this month's White Dwarf, a sub-faction for the Gloomspite Gits was revealed that revolves heavily around squigs. What was their name? too high there with the orange. Yeah, they were called the Jaws of Mork. The Squigalanch, which I did see as an answer in chat, is a good answer. But the Squigalanch is the name of the combined battalion that the Squigs can take, and that's been in the battle tome the whole time. So the Squigalanch is the battalion, but you can take a unique battalion for the Jaws of Mork, which is the Moonjumper or something Squigalanch. Which has got its rules and points values in this month's White Dwarf, if you are inclined to build a giant army of squigs, which I was for a time. I strongly considered a Gloomspite army basically formed around a giant pile of squigs. Especially when I saw that box that sold out in 5 minutes with the Sylvaneth. That box really made me think I wanted to do it. I didn't in the end, but I nearly did go for a Squigalanch army for a bit. I'd assume it was a herd of squigs, because they call them like squig herders and a squig herd. So I'd assume it was a herd of squigs. But maybe if you get a lot of bigger squigs in there, you could call it a Squigalanch as a collective noun. But I believe it's a herd for the smaller squigs, the collective noun. Dear oh dear. Okay, just gonna wait for the orange to dry. I think I've slightly overdone the orange on some of the flames, which is disappointing. So I'll just have to be a bit sparing with the yellow, I think. Do I want to do Avalanche Sunset, or do I want to go straight into Uriel Yellow? I might go straight into Uriel Yellow and just fill out the bottom section of the braziers and just the very base of the fire pit with the Uriel Yellow. I think that's what I'm going to do. We're almost there on the fire effects actually, so once I've done the actual fire, I'll take a short break and go get a drink. Because we've been going for about an hour and 15 roughly by the clock, so hopefully that'll take us to about an hour and a half when I finish off the paints. Then I'll go get a drink, and for the second half of the stream we'll focus on the actual braziers themselves, the metallics of those braziers, and then we can start sticking pillars down. Well, actually no, we can't, because I need to do all these edge effects as well, and that's easier done off them than on them. Okay, Uriel Yellow. So this is the part where I have to be very, very sparing and very, very accurate, because you don't want to overdo the sort of yellow center to the fire, especially because when you're me, you don't do blending. So you do want to get it sort of right. So I'm just going to be very sparing with it. It's not bad. Certainly by my standards, by most standards, this is pretty rubbish. But yeah, old Marathi and the old Witch Elves were certainly made at a different time to today. They were certainly made at a very different age. Was old Marathi. And no, I'm not showing you stream. I'd quite like to not be demonetized, thank you. Okay, that'll do. Okay, that's not terrible. Maybe just a dot or two above the top just to show that, you know, there's connection there. Okay, that's pretty good. The old on foot Marathi with the spiky hat and skull staff. Good grief, I don't remember that. I don't actually know what that miniature is. Most of old Warhammer was not kid friendly. Oh yeah, absolutely. Old Warhammer was made in a very different time, and what was deemed safe for work and safe for kids, and well, what the target demographic was very different. Absolutely. I don't mean to demean from that whatsoever. It's just merely an observation that Warhammer back then was very much less made for kids than it is now. And some would argue that it's still not made for kids, but it kind of is. Absolutely. Without a new generation of kids to play the game will die. So, appeal to the kids, I say. Damn it, someone already beat the joke. I think it was changed into a Dark Elf Sorceress. Oh, that one! I do know that miniature. I do know that miniature, yes. I do know the one you mean now. And a massive, like, witch's hat. So yes, I actually do know the miniature you mean. Now you put it that way. I do remember it as a Dark Elf Sorceress. I didn't realise that was Marathi, because I never owned the miniature. So fair enough, that's cool. You learn something new every day. Oh yeah, I remember that metal Dark Elf Sorceress that had like a spiraling vortex. Yeah, I think that came out with the 7th edition Battle Army book, if I remember. It was around the time of the Dreadlord on Cold One, if I remember. So here's where we are with the fire. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it. So we've just got a gradual build from yellow to red. And I'm going to put some flecks of black on the very top edge of some of the flame. Just to further to that effect. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to take a short break and get a drink. That didn't take as long as I was worried it might. But I'm going to be very sparing again with the black because I don't want to ruin the fire effect that we've got going on here. might be too much, but... Miss the vampires. Yeah, Soulblight, I think... I'd love to see Soulblight be the army that's revealed by sort of talking about Shadow, Broken Realms because of Shyish, the Shyish Nadir. I'd love to see the Soulblight return soon. I think they'd be a great faction to add into AOS right now. Just to shake up Death's formula, because Death has always gone through like having one bonkers army at a time. It was like, okay, we had Legions of Nagash, then we had Flesh Eater Courts. Now we have Osteot Bone Reapers, and now they've nerfed that, so they're kind of fair again. We need to give them a new broken army back for people to complain about. They're still nonsense even after the nerf. Okay, fire effects are done. So that's probably one of my better ones. If I just move the lighting around a touch, excuse me a second. Pull that back. So that is one of the torches. Again, the lighting is absolutely rubbish on it right now because it's too bright. So, you know, I'll just pull it out a bit, turn it away from the camera. So that is one of the fires. So we've got starting with a base coat of Corn Red, washed down with Caribou Crimson, and then a series of diminishing layer highlights working downwards of Mephiston Red, Trollslayer Orange, and Uriel Yellow, with a few flecks of Abaddon Black at the edges. And we've got the same thing with the fires in the pits. So that's how they look. Granted, that's a little bit of a dodgy lighting, and I will try and remember to put this stuff on Twitter later. I'll try and get some close-ups, pop that on Twitter after the stream. Right, so we're at a good point for me to take a short break. I'm going to go get myself a drink because I really need one. My throat is very dry. And when I come back, we're going to do the metallics, so all of the holders, so the braziers themselves and the fire pits themselves. We're going to do the metallics for those, and that will leave us with just one major aspect to do for our final stream, which I think I might actually do tomorrow. So I will be back in about 2 to 5 minutes. I also got myself a drink, got my breath back, and worked out what I'm doing next. So I will see you in a couple of minutes. And we're back. I've slightly rearranged the thing because my mic was sat on a mat and I needed that mat for my drink. But I've had a drink, or started a drink, I've had a snack, and we are good to continue. Indeed. The nids were not sent in because chat went absolutely dead silent when I was gone. Perfect. Well, not really. I always like to see chat busy, which is why I do the trivia questions, because they're great fun. I love doing trivia questions. It just taxes me a little bit to come up with them sometimes. Okay. So, objective the second for this stream, now that we've done the fire, is to do these things. So we've done the pillars. We're going to do these metallic fire pits, as well as the metallic braziers that the fires are sat in. So that is the objective for the next hour, maybe hour and a half, depends on how we go. But I don't think it's going to take us that long, because to be honest, I'm going to just paint them one colour, and that's silver. I was thinking about doing some of them gold, like doing the skulls in gold, but I think it would just be silly, and because of the amount of fire and fuel that's going to be burning in them, it would really ruin the effect anyway. So just a charred silver is probably what I'm going to go for. So shouldn't take us too long. In fact, no, I'm going to do precise bits. I'm just going to be very precise with this section because of not painting metal on the fire. That would look dumb. So I've just got to be accurate. So if I go a bit focus mode at times, I apologise. We will see. See fast out on the Be Right Back screen. That, to be honest, I need to update the screens. So like the live stream screen, the break screen. I actually want to update like the thumbnail and stuff and get some new artwork because, well, obviously Farsight is very inherently linked to what I do, but I'm not just about Farsight anymore, and I've got my own character artwork now, a lot more of it, such as the artwork that's up there that Xenox done, and there's some artwork that someone did for the 100th episode of Podcastus, which was absolutely lovely, and there's some other bits and bobs knocking around that I could use. So I might actually rejig like the thumbnails and the break screen at some point. But anyway, that wasn't the question. What boosts are you hoping for Tau in 9th edition? Just don't suck. Obviously, Tau, it felt like when we saw the changes to Overwatch and the fact that Tau were exempted from it, that Tau were being pigeonholed into the gunline army. Like, they had to rely on Overwatch to work, and they were being pigeonholed because of taking away, like, the boost for flying units to fall back and shoot, which was probably the right thing to do anyway. I feel like that was the risk, is that they were pigeonholing Tau a bit. So hopefully, when they get their 9th Ed Codex, I just want them to have a diverse range of effective playstyles. So, sure, you want to camp and play gunline? Fine, but you'll lose the board because the new terrain rules mean that line of sight is going to really make you struggle. And Lookout Sir is not as nice as it used to be. You want to play an assault, a more mobile game? Well, you'll get assaulted from time to time, and you'll not have a nice time when you do, but you'll have the maneuverability and firepower to blast any objective you need to, and if you're careful with your units and conservative, control the board somewhat. So as long as a variety of viable playstyles are in that codex, I am okay with that. They don't have to be top tier. I don't want them to be top tier. I just want to be able to play them in a number of different ways. Whether that's Montcar going all out aggression, Cao Yon where you take targets of opportunity, the way of the short blade where you do everything right up close and personal, the death by 1,000 cuts stratagem where you just pick off units one by one and run your opponent absolutely ragged, or of course the classic camp rolling gun block thing. So that's what I want from Tau. What are the best paints for fire? I don't know. I just used the paints I had on hand, which as I said was Corn Red washed with Caribou Crimson, and then different layers for Mephiston Red, Troll Slayer Orange, and Uriel Yellow, with a hint of Abaddon Black for the edges. That's how I did my fire. As for what is the best paint for fire, I could not tell you for love nor money, because I don't know. Because there isn't really a fire effects paint type thing. Like there isn't like sort of like, I don't know, Sororitas fire, like a red orange paint that's like a contrast that sinks into recesses and varies in tone. Like, there isn't a paint like that. So I don't really know what the best paint is, but that's just how I did mine. Town Eldar have superior tech. It'd be nice to actually see that in game. Yes, especially since they've upgraded like melter guns and chainswords, or Astartes chainswords and power swords and things like that. It definitely feels like they need to update the high-tech armies to actually feel like their guns are better and their armor is better and their vehicles are better. They just pay more for them because they're more elite and superior technology. So that would be nice. Like 3-shot star cannons, bright lances that are actually better than lance cannons. Yeah, those are options, yeah. Obviously, I wouldn't know what to do for terms of balance with that, but certainly make the high-tech armies actually feel like they have the best technology. That would be a good idea. Sister Battle are cool. They're not my thing, and I had to say it a lot during the podcast when the Sisters models were getting reviewed. It's like, they're really nice, but they're just not my thing. Like, they're cool. The Seraphim in particular are probably my favourite models, as like Seraphim, but Sisters as an army are just not for me. But I'm not going to deny they're a very cool idea. So yeah. I appreciate you're not trying to be mean, but no, I'm not doing that. I've said this before. I'm not doing that. I have my reasons. I'll admit it's a bit of a mess at the moment because I haven't had it cut in like 8 to 9 months. Thanks to lockdown. I was planning to get it cut like in over Easter, but then obviously lockdown happened and I haven't had the time to go get it sorted. So it's a bit of a mess, I won't deny, but I'm certainly not getting rid of it. I have another lead belcher paint, don't I? Someone's got more paint. Oh, I have 2 standard greys. Where's my other lead belcher? Where's my other lead belcher? Because I have another lead belcher that's a lot fuller. Yes, there. So yeah, that one's getting a bit thick, and so it's not very easy to apply. I'm going to get the other one out, particularly for this fire pit section, which is actually a bit big for that areas. What AOS would you, when? Sorry, I'm struggling to translate. When AOS would you like to see a refresh of updated sculpts? I would. Oh, when. Sorry, I'm not quite sure what that question's trying to. Oh, what AOS army would you like to see a refresh of? Oh, right, thank you. Sorry. Ooh, in terms of the existing armies, I think the army that probably needs it the most are probably the Cities of Sigmar, because they've carried over their entire range from Empire, Dispossessed, Wanderers, and the like. And some of the models in that range are very, very old. Some of them are fine, like a lot of the Elven stuff, like the Order Serpentis, are fine. But then you have things that are much older, like within the... Actually, the Dispossessed are not so bad. I think it's the Wanderers, the Wood Elves models are very old and could do with a refresh. I thought they've got Wild Riders, they've got Keepers of the Watch, Sisters of the Watch, Sisters of the Thorn, and Eternal Guard. So like Eternal Guard and the Nomad Prince as well. Mm. Mm. Yeah. I'd also argue that I think some of the Empire artillery, I don't know how much of the Empire artillery is in plastic. So like the Great Cannon, the Hell Blaster, the Hellstorm, how much of that's plastic versus metal and resin? Yeah, I know a lot of the dwarf stuff did get done, like the hammerers, the iron breakers, the gyrocopter. I know all that did get redone just before Fantasy died. In terms of other armies, I think there's some Seraphon sculpts that really need it, like the old Cold War Knights. They really do need it, but at the same time, the Seraphon recently got a redo, so I don't think that they're going to get anything anytime soon. My argument for why the High Elf units got canned was because, well, look what they've done. High Elf Spearmen, canned, replaced by the Phalanxes of the Lumineth. High Elf Archers, canned, replaced by the Archers of the Lumineth. Same with the Silver Helms, canned and replaced by infinitely better cavalry. God, the Silver Helms kit was awful. That's not to say they couldn't have kept more of it, but hopefully when they do the Tyrionic Hemisphere of Hysh, which I still think they're going to do, they'll flesh out some more. So they'll add in a new chariot, a new a different version of heavy infantry, or some heavy cavalry, and things like that. So a lot of the High Elf range was sacrificed to make room for the Lumineth, whilst the Dark Elves range could survive because the Daughters of Khaine were going in a very particular direction, and Malerian's elves appear to mostly be relying on shadow demons, or seem to at least heavily use shadow demons, so they don't need to retire the Dark Elf range the same way they had to the High Elf range, because they weren't going to be just straight up swapping it out for different updated variants. So yes, it's annoying because I had a lot of them, but that I think is why they did it, was to make room for the Lumineth and the Tyrionic Hemisphere of Hysh. Yeah, it's kind of odd given how long ago it was that metal was retired. Like, when was metal like formally replaced in terms of new sculpts being in metal? It was like 2014? No, 2012 maybe. Finecast was a thing, and metal models were sent the way of the dodo in terms of new sculpts. It's kind of amazing that some of them are still around, but hey, it is what it is, and they are gradually replacing them. Do you think the Astra Militarum will get the Rough Riders back now that the Mechanicums have their own cavalry? I would not be opposed to new Rough Riders. I absolutely wouldn't. You've just got to be careful at how do you make them look, because you've got to be careful not to make them look too derpy. Because the Mechanicus cavalry, well, they were cyber horses; they could get away with it. I think they are good at horses now. The Lumineth have proved that they're good at horses. You've just got to make them look. They fit the Astra Militarum aesthetic. While still remaining somewhat true to the Attillans that they came from. So it's a bit of a difficult balance to strike, but I'd like to see them try. I would like to see them try. Big Mutant Horse might be cool, but Big Mutant Horse would be shot. So, because mutant. Yeah, there are some units in the Astra of the Time that are very old and in need of a refresh. But all the tanks have been redone, with the possible exception of the Chimera. But the Chimera looks fine. A lot of the infantry is a bit old, I'll give you. The basic infantry could do with it. Actually, let's have a trivia question on the Astra Militarum for a second then. So, what was the name of the character for the Talon regiment? So what was the Talon character in the Astra Militarum / Imperial Guard? I appreciate that it's it might be awkward to spell, so I will accept tolerances for spelling. But can anyone remember their name? Seem to be having a bit of trouble with this one. So the answer was Captain Al-Rehem. Was the Talon character. Now, my follow-up question was going to be about the Valhallan character, but unfortunately, well, someone says that they want that question, so no, afraid not. You're not going to have that question. Yes, Chenkov. Commissar, send in the next wave Chenkov, as I call him. Because he was recycling conscripts before it was cool. In fact, I think Chenkov kind of made it cool in 40k to recycle chaff infantry. So much so that Chaos went and broke it in 8th edition. Okay, slightly different flavour of one. So nowadays in White Dwarf, you see all sorts of different editorial style articles. Phil Kelly has one, Robin Crudup has one in Echoes of the Warp. There's glory points for Underworlds. But back in the old days of White Dwarf, Jervis Johnson had one of these articles that he used to post, these editorial style articles every month. What was the name of that article / series? Oh, thank you very much for saying so. Birthday, an upload on your birthday. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I hope that the 40k story content continues to impress. And, well, happy birthday for yesterday. People seem to be struggling on this Jervis Johnson article. I don't know if people remember. It was about a decade ago that they used to be around. I don't know if people remember or anything else. But I'll give you a hint. Most every single unit in Warhammer Fantasy had one. Well, most every single infantry unit had one anyway. People seem to be struggling with this one, so I'll give you the answer. The articles in question were called Standard Bearer. It was the Standard Bearer, like, editorial thing. It usually came after the battle reports, but before the painting section in a lot of the old White Dwarfs. I've made reference to it several times on Podcasters, for example, with the Murdering Your Darlings article he wrote. That's the one that always sticks with me about the design principles that went back into the Hesperax model for the Dark Eldar, as they were at the time. Oh, moving house. Oh, that's fun. I think most people know this. I moved house about a month ago now. It's not the most fun thing in the world, so I'm glad to be of some entertainment and background listening while you get packed up, because that's always a fun job. I love doing that. Plays elves, doesn't play space elves. Of course not. Well, to be honest, a lot of the army motivations that I had were what was in the box games. High elves were in the box game. Orcs were in a box game. And Eldar at the time didn't appeal to me somehow like high elves did, a lot more than the Skaven. So I just went for the high elves because that was the box. Yeah, that was my logic on not playing Eldar. There was a kid actually at our Warhammer club in year 7 who did end up playing Eldar actually. Don't know if any of the mods will remember them who played Eldar in year 7. But anyway, my 30k army, my 30k army is in a box. I think it's in a box in my parents' loft. I haven't touched it in years. I probably shouldn't have bought Burning of Prospero. That was a mistake. I should have just bought the Magnus model for my own collection, which I have, and I love it. But I shouldn't have bought Burning of Prospero. It was a bit of a mistake. Though it did give one of my friends some like £5 Custodes and Sisters of Silence, so could have been worse, I guess. Because I kept all 30 Astartes. And I love doing the Ahriman miniature. But like I haven't touched my 30k army in such a long time because I'm just not playing it. And as much as I like the lore for it, you need at least a reason to play it and be creative with it. And I don't feel like I get that with 30k the same. It's like I know I won't play it. I know I'll play Sigmar eventually. I know I'll play 40k. I don't know if I will play 30k because no one in my friendship group has much of it, and certainly none of us play it on the regular. Can't tell if that thanks is snarky. Probably is. I probably said something that's annoyed Ben. That's normal. I do that quite a lot by accident. There does not seem to be a difference between Dark Elves and Dark Eldar. Well, Slaanesh isn't actively eating the souls of the Dark Elves. Never was. The Dark Elves, in some cases, were a lot more chaos worshipping. So there was some cases where Marathi almost like worshipped Slaanesh in, I think, some versions of the canon. And I know that she went very cornate, Harganeth and the Witch Elves went very cornate towards the end of the end times. So there are some differences, though admittedly on the surface, at a glance, you might not always realise. I can appreciate that. Yeah, I can't see Vector becoming the 40k Phoenix King. Me neither. Was it you? I thought it was the other Ben who bought him off me. Because he was the space... No, did I sell him Gygor Fellhound and I gave you the Custodes? Did I get that the wrong way around? Oops, sorry. I couldn't remember. I know I gave our Space Wolves playing friend Gygor Fellhound, but I thought I gave him the other stuff as well. But if I gave you the Custodes and Sister Silence, that also makes sense. In which case, for 4 years ago, you're welcome. And no, I'm not singing it. Time are we? Oh god, we're nearly at 9 o'clock already. Blimey, this is... I'm nearly done with the base coats of these metallics now, so it'll just be a series of washes from there, maybe the odd edge highlight, but we're almost there now with the Spire effect, with the metallics. And that'll take us to about 9:30 probably to finish, and that'll be a 2.5 hour stream, which is pretty good. Probably about right, and then I'll retire back to the Discord and put the updates out on Twitter of where we are up to. Can't afford to get demonetized for good singing. Okay, that's the silver done. So I've just got to wash that down. Well, I'm probably going to need about 3 coats of Nuln Oil. So I'm going to wash them down with Nuln Oil once, and then I'm going to wash down like inside the pits and sort of around the actual fire very heavily with probably another coat or 2 of Nuln Oil. Just to really darken that down, show that sort of charred effect from having them lit for so long. Okay, so now that's done. Okay, so since chat's, I've done some trivia questions, I'm going to throw sort of an open question to chat since we talked about it earlier, but not everyone was here. What is your one prediction for Saturday's reveal stream? Reminder, the theme or the subheading is Shadow, Iron, and Broken Realms. One prediction, go. Where's my non-oil? There's my non-oil. I have a second pot of this stuff that I bought in lockdown because I ran out, but I never did. Who do you think would win in an all-out war, Tyranids or Xenomorphs? The Tyranids have more numbers, I assume. So probably the Tyranids. But the thing is, the way it is, Warhammer always wins. It's just the way things are. Warhammer almost always wins those like cross-franchise fights because it's just so ludicrous that it always wins as a result. Okay, so maybe not always wins, but pretty much. Okay, we've had a couple of predictions. Old world content. I think we're a little early for that, but that would be very cool. Vampires, I think again would be very cool. I think that's one of the like not maybe odds-on bets, but a very decent bet because of just the fact that we haven't had a death faction since Ossiarch. So I think that might be a good one. It was Shadow, Iron, and Broken Realms. The Warcry Elves have already had their reveal though, so I don't know if we need to see them twice. But Dwarves will be cool, like a Dwarven Warband. Heck, the re-release of Chaos Dwarves. Maybe Chaos Dwarves are back from the broken old world, now using height skulking in the shadow of Chaos and using their Hellforged Iron. Maybe it's a Chaos Dwarves re-release, who knows? That would be interesting. Should not do that. I'm going to knock my paint over if I do that again. Maybe something more for chaos non-humans. So dwarves and elves, but spiky. Yeah, we've seen that in Warcry, very little bit, which will be interesting. Like we've said, chaos dwarves, and we know that chaos elves exist in like the Splintered Fang. So that could be cool. I don't think we'll see chaos elves before we see Valyrian's elves, but I wouldn't rule it out. Could be cool. So that's one coat. I'm probably going to need about 3 coats to get the final effect I want. Time to actually wash accurately. Oh, fun. Accurate washes. Everyone loves accurate washes. Plastic warp spiders. I mean, plastic aspect warriors would be a very good idea. And I think the Craft Worlds range will be one of the first to be redone, absolutely. I just don't know if they're going to push more 40k right now. What with the fact that they've still got Marines and Necrons to come out, they might just hold back just to give the other game systems some room to breathe after, 3 reveal streams straight of nothing but 40k. It might be worth just dialing back the 40k a little bit, just enough to let the other game systems breathe a tad. I won't put much stock in it, but it would be nice. Oh, I'm not saying they don't need it. Absolutely, they do need it. I'm merely pointing out that we just need to give the other game systems a chance here to, actually have a chance. Because this is what happened with Fantasy and all the other Middle-earth variants, is that 40k got so much of the screen time that nothing else really got the same amount of love. And that's not to say that that's what killed Fantasy, not at all. Merely that it didn't help that the new player base wasn't getting much screen time to actually be drawn into it. Will not have helped matters anyway. Two down. Actually, come to think of it, we're probably due for AOS 3 next year, because AOS has always been a year behind 40k in terms of updates. So, because AOS 2 came out a year after 8th edition, so we might even be due for AOS 3 next year. That's a chilling thought. Well, that's just rude. Your opinion it may be, but choice of words. Deciding to say that, oh yes, you're uglier than a person who is 10,000 years old and wears skin as a coat. Yes, that's a very, very flattering choice of words. Thank you. Anyway, done now. Move on. Could have waited until Warhammer Total War came out, then do something with Fantasy. Yeah, but I think I don't think, from the article they did about Warhammer the Old World, they never expected to be making it. I think they would just, obviously Total War coming out when it came out, straight after Fantasy died, probably was a bit of a bad piece of timing. But to be honest, I think they were quite happy to let Fantasy live on in the Total War games and Vermintide and all the other video games, and that be that. But they didn't. And they sort of said, we didn't think we were going to do this, but we're doing it when they announced the Old World. So, swings and roundabouts. Certainly, in hindsight, not an ideal move. Right, first wash done, which means that this wash is almost dry, not quite. So when that's dry, I'll do a second or third wash onto there. Probably just the second wash for now. See where we are. Podcast as always comes out Wednesday morning UK time. So about 58 hours from now. So 2 days on, and then it's at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's currently 9:10 at night. So 2 days and 10 hours-ish. So when it comes out. Oh yeah, those who played Fantasy did absolutely love it. But I think Fantasy did have a few issues. Its barrier to entry was very high, both financially and in terms of gameplay skill. Because it was a complicated game. It was. It was tricky to pick up. It was expensive to play, even relative to 40k, because of the amount of models you needed to make a half-decent regiment work, particularly in Horde armies. A lot of the sculpts were very old, which didn't help. And I think it just hadn't been given the support it needed. And, as I say, the complexity didn't help. But certainly, there were those people who burned their models, which mostly were laughed at the time and definitely are laughed at now for just that cataclysmic mistake. Okay, so just wash the upper skull and brazier holder a second time. That will create sort of 2 tiers of darkness. Wow, that was a very edgy way to put that statement. 2 tiers of darkness. I can imagine there's some of them who do feel awful at it, but there'll be someone who just be like, you know what, I've made my decision, I stand by it, screw GW. So, and there is also that opinion as well. They're completely entitled to that. Certainly, because of the resale value of models, particularly for those older sculpts, the resale value might have meant it was an ill-devised stratagem financially, but I don't think it was planned with finances in mind. So, you know, it happened. It's done now. Yeah, I don't know what the melting point of it was tin, or was it pewter? I think it was pewter, the old metal models. Or was it tin? I think it was, actually no, it was tin, wasn't it? I can't remember what the metal models used to be made of, whether it was pewter or tin. Or maybe pewter is an alloy that uses tin, and that's why I've got tin on the brain. I can't remember. Pewter and lead. Right, okay. Lead? Wait, lead? So pewter's not an element, so it had to be an alloy of something. So I'm assuming it's a tin alloy of some kind. Okay, so I've done the braziers now. So I've done them in silver. Washed them with Northern oil, and I put a second coat of Northern oil over the bits that are closest to the fire, so as we can have that. And I'll probably stipple, once the washes have dried, I might stipple a bit of Abaddon Black around the coals in the pits, just to show like a build-up of ash in there as well. $21.17. Okay, not bad. That still needs to dry. I've just got to wait for the actual fire pits to dry, and then I'll stick the fire into the pits, and then they'll be done. And I won't stick anything down because I need to do all the detailing on the temple itself, and that will be a stream that I think I'll do tomorrow. I'll do that as a stream tomorrow. We'll try and finish the altar of Khaine, but that might mean starting early, so I'm not sure what I'll do because I haven't got anything quick in the fridge or freezer. I was starting Warhammer, was leaving the Immortal Fantasy because of Total War Warhammer. Yeah, that's true. Total War Warhammer did introduce a lot of people to Warhammer Fantasy right after Warhammer Fantasy died. Didn't help. Just a bad piece of timing, really. But hey, I suppose you could still discover the universe through the old books, Warhammer Chronicles and things like that. And then that would allow you, if you read the End Times books, if they were still available, to progress to Sigmar. But it's not ideal. It definitely wasn't ideal from GW and Creative Assembly. Well, GW, nothing to do with Creative Assembly, really. Yeah, fantasy definitely has some cool lore. There's the time of the Three Emperors, when all the electorate counts are arguing over who deserved to be emperor. You've got the Sundering and the fall of Ulthuan in general. You've got the wars between the Lizardmen and the Skaven, the saga of Cetra and the Gash, the Von Karstein family, Carrick Eight Peaks. There's some really cool lore in fantasy if you know where to look. There really is. Is, both. Oh, well, there's so much lore in general, the End Times notwithstanding. The End Times was a bit of a mess, I won't disagree. It had some nice ideas, absolutely, like the idea of Tyrion becoming the Widowmaker and taking up the Widowmaker, and Malekith being the Eternity King is an interesting idea, but I don't know if it was quite right, especially when you introduce all this cool stuff just to blow it up, which of course we knew they were going to do. It's interesting. It has some problems with its writing, definitely, but then a lot of writing around that time for GW was a bit shaky, because Gathering Storm came not long after, and that was very shaky in some places. So it's not great, but it is what it is. It's in the books, literally. Total Warhammer did to the old world what Dawn of War did to 40k. Arguably, yeah, different audience, but certainly it got the Warhammer name and the Warhammer universe out into a new market, whether it was going into grand strategy rather than RTS. It kind of does do that. I don't know if it was quite as successful as Dawn of War was, but certainly it got a lot more eyes on the product. I will not argue with that. Right, I'm just going to hold these up to the light and just get them to dry really quickly because I'm in a rush. Here's hoping Total Warhammer 3 doesn't end up like Dawn of War 3. Very valid. Very valid. Like the plot of Dawn of War 3 is a bit weird, but like they are sort of racing for the spear of Khaine and them all having to work together at the end. It's kind of cool, kinda. I was alright with it, but certainly the gameplay didn't do it for everyone. I'm more than aware of that. Right, let's get these fires stuck down. Gathering Storm, good idea, but some of the books had a bad execution. Yeah, I mostly see Fracture of BL-10 catch most of the flack. Like Rise of the Primarch was interesting, but it's kind of been given a lot more slack. Fall of Cadia, well, it's Fall of Cadia. But certainly Fracture of BL-10, I feel like gets most of the slack. Or sorry, most of the flack, I should say, from the community, I would say. Trust CA not to mess it up? Fair enough. If you trust CA, you trust CA. So these are the fire pits that are now finished. You can see the flames in there. You've got the coals as well. So I might just stipple around in there once it's fully dry with some Abaddon Black. Just add some ash. But I'll do that off screen because it's kind of a waste of time. I'm just waiting for paints and glues to dry right now. So I won't bother. I'm not going to glue anything else down because I want to take the pillars off to work on their edge details, which is what we're going to do in our next stream. And also to work on the top details of the temple, which will also hopefully be in the next stream. That probably will take all stream, even though it's going to be pretty much entirely painting it gold. It will take most of a stream, I think, just because it's long. It's long work. Classic Marines have 2 wounds, so that means they're here to stay. Well, certainly for another couple of editions. I don't think they'll last forever, but yeah. I certainly think it means that Firstborn are around for a lot longer. They're certainly not about to be squatted. Sorry, Tomb Kings. Can't say squatted anymore because the squats are back. Right. And with that, we arrive at roughly the end of the stream. We've got complete one of our 2 remaining objectives for the Altar of Khaine, that being the fire effects. Again, looks something like this. So you've got the fires and their metallic holders, and then the fire pits as well. So we've got the flames themselves done. Thank you to everyone for helping me out with that, with getting them right. Much appreciated as always. Next time, which I'm hoping to be tomorrow, but I'll see how I go. I'll probably announce around about midday tomorrow if I'm planning to stream in the evening. We're going to work on these things. So these are the external details of the temple. On the purple stones, we've got these ones on the edge of the pillars, and we've got the top of the temple itself. So I'll remind you what the temple looked like before. We have all those grey bits, like the bit around the pool, the comet, the metallic ring, and a few of the extra details as well to paint. It's not a huge amount, but it takes up a lot of physical volume, so we may be there a while. So I might start the stream a little bit earlier than 7 o'clock. I might do it more towards like 5:30 or 6 o'clock. Just to give us up a bit more time. I will update with some photos on social media later. I'll take some photos of the individual components and also reassemble the temple to show you what it looks like now. And then that will go out on Twitter, which is linked in the description, twitter.com/Tactica Imperial. If you would like to go and have a look at that. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you are always welcome to. Though I don't tweet that much, I'll be completely honest. I'm a little bit boring on Twitter and social media. My social media game is weak. But we are done. Thank you everyone in chat for turning out tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with all of you. And of course, if you'd like to join the channel's Discord server, then you are more than welcome to do so. There's a link higher up in the chat. We're going to be doing a Snarkathon on Saturday for the reveals stream. But we'll also be streaming, of course, hopefully tomorrow and definitely on Friday, where we will absolutely be talking about that a little bit more, maybe got a bit more information, a bit more hinting, and we can start to piece together a bit of a plan as to what's going on. But we will not be talking leaks. If you hear any leaks and spoilers, I don't want to know. So Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's been Tactica Imperialis, and I will see you all again. Good night.